Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we'll provide an update on the performance of my InvestEngine stocks and shares ISA portfolio, a portfolio for which I have a goal to reach 100k within the next 3 years. Before we take a look at the portfolio, we'll quickly dive into what's been happening with the markets to understand what factors have been influencing my own portfolio. And if you're new here, I'm Finch, a management consultant by day, and on this channel we like to discuss all things personal finance with particular focus on how to grow your money through investing. If you'd like to follow my own personal finance journey with regular portfolio updates like this one, as well as a bunch of other personal finance related videos, then I'd greatly appreciate a subscribe. But for this video, let's get into it with the market update, and let's kick off by taking a look at the performance of the biggest market in the world, in America. The S&P 500 is up by 2.84% over the last month at the time of recording. This is really good performance, and it seems that investors now have high confidence that the American economy will come to a soft landing, which of course is good for the stock market. We're also now entering earnings season, where companies report their quarterly earnings, so this will have a big impact on the short-term market movements of the S&P. So far, the third quarter earnings have been good. Around 13% of S&P 500 companies have reported earnings at the time of recording, and 75% of those have beat expectations. So overall, in America, it's been a good month for the market. If we bring it closer to home and take a look at the FTSE 100, we can see it's also been a good month for the FTSE. This index is up by 1.56% over the last month at the time of recording. However, the biggest market movements over the last month was not in the UK or in the US, it was in China. The CSI 300, which captures the performance of the top 300 stocks, traded on the Shanghai Stock Exchange and the Shenzhen Stock Exchange, is up by 22.62% over the last month. And during 1 week of that month, the index rose by 25%, which was easily its largest weekly gain since 2008. This performance was in response to the long-awaited announcements of economic support from the authorities in China. And I'm hoping this performance also has a good impact on my emerging markets ETF, as this is one of the ETFs in my portfolio which hasn't performed too well over the last 2-3 years. So now we know all about the market movements, let's move on and take a look at the performance of my InvestEngine portfolio. We can see that my portfolio currently has a balance of £36,513. And over the last month, my portfolio is up by £1,536 in pound terms and 3.9% in percentage terms. This performance in pound terms is my best monthly performance since I started this portfolio. And I'm starting to see that the compound effect really get into action, as I'm getting returns on my old returns. So I'm hoping that this compound effect continues as the next years go by to help me reach my 100k goal by 2027. If we switch to the Max tab and see my overall portfolio performance, we can see that I'm up by over £4,000 overall for this portfolio. This portfolio is up by £4,090.90 in pound terms and 22.84% in percentage terms. And we can see, looking at this graph, there's only really been the last year where a significant gap has formed between the investment value and the net contributions, with the investment value being the line in green and net contributions in blue. So this shows how important it is to be invested in the long term, as over the short term the markets are volatile, and we can see that for the majority of the initial periods that the return wasn't good for this portfolio. But over the long term, the return has been relatively good, following historical patterns where over the long term the markets tend to do well. So overall, over the past month and my overall performance, I'm very happy with this portfolio. If we move on now to take a look at the individual ETFs making up this portfolio and how they've performed over the last month, and start off with the HSBC MSCI World. We can see that this ETF is up by £1,043.34 in pound terms over the last month, and it's up by 3.5% in percentage terms. And it's not surprising that this ETF has done well, given that most of the world stock market has done well, particularly in the US, as we went through earlier. The next ETF also had a good month in the iShares MSCI Emerging Markets. It was up by £185.56 in pound terms and 5.98% in percentage terms. And this performance isn't too surprising either, given what we went through with the Chinese stock market performance, as the Chinese stock market makes up a significant proportion, Chinese stocks make up a significant proportion of this ETF. If we click on the ETF, we can see by going to regions that a significant proportion of this ETF is Asia, ex-Japan and emerging markets. Unfortunately, it's a bit annoying that InvestEngine don't go into any further detail in terms of country-specific breakdowns for this ETF. But if we click on holdings and click show all, we can see a number of the top holdings are Chinese stocks, such as Tencent Holdings. It makes up 3.5% of this ETF, and it's a massive Chinese company. So of course, if we have many Chinese companies in this ETF making up a significant proportion, and given China did well, of course this ETF overall will do well. So I'm hoping that the Chinese economy and Chinese stock market continues to grow and continues on this trend which started this month, as it will make a positive impact for this ETF. The next ETF is also up in the iShares MSCI World Small Cap. This is up by £104.85 in pound terms and 2.37% in percentage terms. Since investors now have high confidence that the American economy will come to a soft landing, and since the Fed has now begun cutting rates, I do expect to see significant growth in this ETF over the next year, as small caps tend to really benefit from low interest rate environments, as they tend to rely on borrowing for growth. So I'm hoping that once we get to the point of a low interest rate environment, this ETF will see significant growth. The next fund is actually my best performing fund over the past month in percentage terms, and that's the iShares Physical Gold. This is up by £100.28 in pound terms and 7% in percentage terms. This performance is quite surprising to me, and gold's performance over the past year has been very surprising overall to me. If we click on the component, we can see over the past 6 months, this fund is up by nearly 10%, and over the past year, it's up by over 26%. The reason why I find this so surprising is because gold's historical patterns suggest that gold peaks when the stock market is not doing well and when investor sentiment in the stock market is low. But at the moment, as we saw with the S&P 500, the FTSE 100 and my equity ETFs, the stock market is doing well. In fact, it's probably going from strength to strength. Gold is defying the historical patterns and performing relatively well, and there's many theories why it's doing so well. They range from a simple explanation that the Fed is cutting interest rates, which means that other assets which are competing for the same funds as gold are less appealing, such as bonds. But there's other theories too, such as sovereign wealth funds are now putting loads of money into gold. There's theories around the insecurity caused by the wars at the moment in Europe and the Middle East. No one really knows why gold is performing so well. But I, for one, hope this trend continues, as this gold ETF makes up a key part of my portfolio. So hopefully we have more positive growth next month. The final ETF also performed well in the Wisdom Tree Cloud Computing Fund. This was up by £102.69 in pound terms and 6.39% in percentage terms. Any regular viewers to this channel will know that this ETF hasn't performed too well over the past few months. But you'll also know that I've had confidence that it will come good at some point. And now this fund is starting to perform well, at least over the past month. And if we go onto the Max tab, we can see that this fund is now back in the green, as I had a number of months where this fund was in the red. This fund is now up by 14%. And in terms of the overall performance of the other funds since I started investing in them, we can see that the HSBC MSCI World is up by over 29%, the Emerging Markets Fund is up by over 13%, the Small Cap Fund is up by over 16%, and the best performing fund in the Physical Gold Fund is up by over 38%. So I'm happy with the overall performance, and I'm happy with the performance over the past month. Of course, this could all change as the market is very volatile in the short term, but I still have confidence in the long term in this portfolio, and I have a plan to get to 100k within the next 3 years by investing in this set of ETFs at the weights you've seen in this video. Let me know how your InvestEngine portfolios have performed, and if you want to find out what my top 15 features are on InvestEngine, then I have a video around here. But for this video, thanks for watching,